My name is Paul Sullivan. I'm a pharmacist, formulator, and a nutritionist that has been involved 17 years in designing, developing software nutritional formulas to address the current rise in chronic disease. As a pharmacist, seeing sickness rise and really finding the bottom line of it coming from the lack of nutrition in this country. Looking at the nutritional formulas that were available and seeing the lack of uniqueness among all the brands out there, I did see that everything was addressed to one single individual. And my observation is that one size does not fit all. In fact, it fits nobody. So my last 17 years have been spent developing the formulas, the science, the research, the thousands of algorithms, the 7,000 clinical studies to come up with formulas that really address every individual's unique nutritional needs. Where we're really different is addressing the needs of people's certain medical conditions and their prescription use. As a health professional, I see among doctors, physicians, and pharmacists serious concerns about supplements, more because of their interactions with certain medical conditions, the interactions with prescriptions, and then an evolving science that's come up in the last 7 to 8 years where critical nutrients are depleted by prescriptions. If not replaced, can cause an erosion of health care. The pharmaceutical industry is moving toward chronotherapy or chronomedication, and that's giving the right drug at the right time of day. One example would be that the liver is recharging itself at night between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So why would you want to give the nutrients in the morning? ID Nutrition delivers each of these nutrients at the particular time of day it's needed. One of the biggest concerns I have with products that are available in the marketplace, particularly at retail, are those with artificial ingredients that come from petroleum sources or maybe are using ingredients that are genetically modified. At IDLife, we use all natural ingredients or products that are synthesized from natural ingredients. We look at your health as a program. We're really addressing each individual nutrient that reflects your needs based on dietary issues, lifestyle issues, various chronic diseases you might have, various prescriptions you take, and various medical conditions. The future at IDLife is really exciting. We will deliver to you the same quality, the same science, the same efficacy, and the same safety in all current and future products. People think that if they eat 3 squares a day and a sufficient amount of protein and carbohydrates and fats that they're getting all they need. But basically, the way kind of our lifestyles have gone today, the way we're working, mothers and wives often working and needing to prepare food in a quick way or pick up prepared food from a grocery store or, God forbid, maybe get fast food. And we're just finding that there's less of the good nutrition and more of the bad nutrition. So in a more kind of crude way, say there's too little of the good stuff and too much of the bad stuff. And you hear terms like, the processed foods, and frankenfood is one I like to use, where there's so many ingredients in the food now, particularly if you're buying it outside the house, that are affected by all the sides. There's 4 of the sides. I talk about insecticides and pesticides and herbicides and fungicides. Your meats have more estrogens and antibiotics. The trans fats, the high sugar, the high fructose, corn syrup, food coloring, plasticizers. I mean, where's the food? Where's the nutrition that we had, 20, 30, even 40 years ago? And government statistics will show that some of these major minerals, like magnesium, is down over 50% in our foods, potassium down 80%, where the only mineral that's really increasing is salt. So more of the bad stuff. When you get to fast food, I read several months ago that a Burger King, not to knock them, I probably should say just fast food, milkshake has over 47 synthetic ingredients, most of them flavored. I mean, that's crazy. Let's talk about taxing the liver, taxing the digestive system. And it also is not only the food we're getting, and even if we can buy organic and buy fresh and buy close to home, it's often the way we cook it. And if it's a slow cooker, it's okay, but today using microwaves, we're losing at over 106 degrees, we're losing all the enzymes in food and many of the nutrients. So, and I know how many mothers and fathers and people out there today have to use the micro to warm up food they picked up outside or maybe leftovers, and to find out that that's nothing but bulk, nothing but fiber, nothing but maybe some carbs that can generate a little bit of energy because they'll convert to sugar. The nutrition is just empty. So it's all about the quality of the food we select, the lifestyle, and then the way this impacts our long-term health is things that are happening today. The prescriptions you're taking today at 40, 50 years of age, maybe just one blood pressure med, maybe something for cholesterol. That problem started 15 years ago. It didn't start yesterday or last week when your doctor told you had to start a Lipitor. So these are long-term risks, long-term considerations. So we just got to make sure that we're getting our nutrition. And I basically start off with my vitamins and the rest of anything I get with a carefully balanced meal, timing it right, trying to get, say, less of the bad, more of the good. I still know that if I'm taking my supplements, that I'm getting the nutrition I need and that my cells need. Right, and it's been a kind of it's evolved, it's dynamic, and it'll be better next year than it is this year. And I saw some 17 years ago working in the pharmacy side that there was a lot of concern about doctors, about drug-nutrient interactions. And I thought at that time how important it would be, for doctors not to be recommending vitamins or telling their patients not to take vitamins based on the fact that it may interact with their prescription, while real world and a real risk, because it does happen. Last year there were reported 107,000 people who died from drug toxicity in hospitals. And they're saying estimates that 5 to 7% of those could have been are kind of linked to drug-nutrient interaction. So it is a concern. So I thought if I could come up with a system to alert the doctors or alert the patients or the clients what those risk factors were, that they could do both. And what I want to position this is that I'm not an alternative healthcare professional. And as you showed in my bio, I have a lot of healthcare background, a lot of very rigorous scientific and biological training and pharmaceutical training, but my practice, my outlook, my philosophy is integrated, meaning we're working with medicine, not against it. It's not alternative. It's not take my vitamins, don't take your prescriptions. It's not get acupuncture, don't have surgery. It's not conflict as I see it. I think it should be working hand in hand, hand in glove, to be integrative, one working with the other. So the last few years, I've worked hard to kind of evolve the drug-nutrient interaction problem into an easy software assessment that analyzes things like diet, lifestyle, and medical conditions and things like that, in addition to over-the-counter drug use too, not just prescription use. If you're using aspirin, if you're using ibuprofen, acetaminophen, things that are find it over-the-counter type medications or combinations, you have risks of interactions with nutrients or depleting certain nutrients, and that's the evolving science that we have taken a leadership position in, is ascertaining which drugs, which OTC ingredients deplete critical nutrients. By doing that, replacing those nutrients before they become a problem, before either you have health erosion or potentially more medical conditions that require more prescriptions, which is kind of the way the game is played. We call it the prescription cascade. Yeah, we have looked at over 7,000 studies, implemented about 4,000 of them, Scott, that are developed into algorithms within the system, and adding more every day, because this is a dynamic situation. Science is changing, our our clients are changing, our patients are changing, our membership is changing on a day-to-day basis. They have different medical challenges, they're taking different prescriptions, they're hopefully changing their exercise, they might be changing their nutrient need. So we're saying that we've done these, looked at all these medical studies in order to base the recommendations on scientific evidence only. We don't use testimonials, we don't use kind of hearsay. We don't look at ingredients and say, this is a neat program, let's build an assessment around it. And years ago, when we built this, we call it zero basing. So we basically found the science, and it took, we had PhD chemists and biochemists, organic chemists, physicians, dietitians, pharmacists that looked at all these studies, built the assessment, built the algorithms behind it, and only then did we come up with the nutrients that we needed to put in a program. So it's kind of the reverse of the way everything else is built today. People have a formula, and there's several assessments out there that try to back into recommending the assessment by basically structuring an assessment that recommends the nutrients that are being offered. We have no investment in these particular vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids. We only want it to be the right one, and we change it out, not frequently, but as soon as it's needed. If there's a negative study, we'll change it out to reflect the new science. If there's a new study, we bring in a new ingredient or maybe a new use for an old ingredient. But all of these studies kind of give us updates, and we look at things on a monthly basis. We go back and look at 5,200 journals to review these studies and see if there are any new or corrective studies in addition to, say, new uses for our current ingredients. And in all cases, if we find a pharmaceutical interaction, we can correct that, add that block in the software in an hour. It's done. So that's why I say the science changes the assessment as the science changes or as the patient changes. We're still, as far as I know, within the industry, either pharmacy, medicine, or nutrition are the only people that are really using chronobiology, chronotherapy. And it's really supplying the right dose at the right time of day. And it's where a lot of companies might show you 2 packets a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. Basically what they're doing is splitting the dose. They might have a total of 10 capsules. Rather than give it to you 2 packets in the morning, they'll say we take 1 at dinner, 1 at night. But we'll have different supplements in each packet. In the breakfast, certain nutrients go better in the morning, certain nutrients are better absorbed at night. Just life moves in called synchrony, or in rhythms, to the beat of clocks, right? I mean, we're all kind of tied to clocks and calendars, some outside the body and some within the very cells of all living things. And I won't talk about plants, we're talking about humans here, but this circadian rhythm, and it's not always circadian. There are 3 different kinds of rhythm. I won't get into the other 2, but the circadian is the 24-hour cycle. And I want to tell you that I'm so excited, and I'm going to read from it, that my wife, she belongs to AARP, and of course I'm not old enough to join yet. So they had a magazine article this month, December 2013, called Bedtime. And it says, you take your medicine daily, but when you take it may be the key. New research may point out to the best time. Well, we've been doing this for 15 years, but they're just catching on. Let me read just quickly from the first paragraph here. It said, the instructions on the bottle simply say, take once a day. Yet the specific time of day you take medications may make an important difference, because inside of us ticks a finely tuned master clock driven by a tiny region of the brain that helps us sync up the Earth's cycle of light and dark. This master clock also directs a host of peripheral clocks found in the organs, tissues, and cells, says Dr. Michael Smolensky, a professor of biomedical engineering at the University of Texas in Austin. The body doesn't respond to medications, and I might add nutrients, in the same way at different times of the day. Some drugs are not as effective or as well tolerated if they're taken at the wrong biological time. It's not that they're not effective at all, but they're certainly much less effective. And they go on about chronotherapy as the hot topic of today, but your doctor may not be aware of it. So that's where we have leadership in medicine, in pharmacy, and of course in nutrition. And then they talk about even cancer. There's a drug called 5-fluorouracil. It's been around a long time that they're using to treat colorectal cancer, is now given at night, when these cancer cells are more vulnerable and normal cells are resting and least sensitive. See, so at night, Scott would talked about it. You see, it's in the packaging system that you're putting in, that hospital packaging equipment, very sophisticated, that we're putting in liver nutrients at nighttime because the liver is recharging itself between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. You know, the blood pressure is rising in the morning. You know, there's all kind of cycles happening through the day to each of us. Sometimes you're talking about cycles, you think about women's cycles and maybe a monthly cycle. But with us, the lungs, we used to say in pharmacy that asthma owns the night, because that's when children would get croup, and mothers here would know that, you know, lung function is challenged, you know, between early in the evening, but even from 4 a.m. until 8 a.m. So we give nutrients that help the upper respiratory immune system at the dinner dose. And then one more example I'll give that really shows we have basically with arthritis, there are two different kinds, or more than two different kinds, but the two major kinds are osteoarthritis, where you have pain in the afternoon, and rheumatoid arthritis, where people have pain in the morning. So we give the dose of the anti-inflammatory at dinner the night before, so that will be in the system for the predictable pain, to reduce it, to support it, to minimize it, to manage it in the morning. And then we give in the morning dose that same anti-inflammatory in the morning, because this specific other person would have osteoarthritis. And of course, that pain usually occurs late morning and early afternoon. So in that way, you know, ID nutrition is different from everybody else. We realize that not only are people uniquely different, prescriptions they take, the way they eat, the medical conditions they have, but also that we're all different as humans. Taking different nutrition, nutrients, or drugs are better taken at the time of day when the body most needs them. We don't use a lot of herbs, like a lot of companies do, because they do interact with drugs a lot, with many prescription drugs. And I would just assume with our now almost 2,200 drugs in our database that we have so many herbs that interact with it, we'd like to minimize the herbal, botanical ingredients in our program. Essential fatty acids, you know, like omega-3 essential fatty acids, amino acids like L-carnitine, and of course probiotics. And when you really think of it, because we are our solution, I love that word you use there, Scott, to describe it, that it's also, if you went in that same store and you bought a multiple, and then you bought something for immune health, you bought something for joint pain, you bought something for bone health, for digestion, for stress, you could be up to 150 ingredients if you indiscriminately picked bottles based on what looked to be have very broad coverage, when in effect, of course, we talk about the amount of actives in each ingredient, and we're really interested in having a dosage that works. You know, and basically was said before that, you know, we'll use a studied dose. Well, a lot of these people might have ingredients, many ingredients in there that are basically label paint, very low doses that have little or no effect. So within these, also in these ingredients, we have very sophisticated cofactors, combinations of ingredients that are absorbed very quickly. Our omega-3s have not just a standard DHA, EPA in it, but we have it in higher doses. And we have it in a smaller capsule, the smallest capsule in the industry. You don't have to take that big hunkin' 1,000 milligram capsule that only has 300 milligrams of effective essential fatty acids. We have over
about almost 500, and it's in a 750 milligram capsule, which is easy to swallow. And we're one of the few, we were the first, but now one of the few that actually add vitamin E to those ingredients to make sure they don't oxidize, which is what happens when you burp them up, because people have a bad effect with things that, with fats, oils that are not properly supported with extra antioxidants. Higher cost, but better safety for us and better efficacy. We also use other ingredients that we call cofactors. Like instead of cyanocobalamin, which is a really cheap form of B12, we use a little bit of that, but mostly methylcobalamin, which is a very active form of B12 that cyanocobalamin must convert to. We just don't supply vitamin D. We have vitamin D cofactors. And the vitamin D cofactors include magnesium, vitamin A, zinc, all the things that help the vitamin D become processed through the kidney, then the liver, then the kidney, go to the vitamin D receptor, then be absorbed. If all the different cofactors, the magnesium, the zinc, the vitamin A are not present, then vitamin D won't be absorbed very well, if at all, no matter how much you take. So these are all the little tweaks, the little enhancements that we make to every ingredient, every formula to maximize the absorption. The FDA requires, and you can buy just about anything on the shelf and know that it's pretty standard. And if you go into a Walmart or a CVS or a big box retailer, that if you buy their supplements, that if they say they have 500 milligrams of vitamin C, it'll be in there. But the problem is you really have to rely on the manufacturer, the brand that they have, which is not always the best in a Walmart. Not that it's unsafe by any means, it probably isn't. It's probably very safe. But it will not, they don't always necessarily dissolve. The more expensive brands are tested for disintegration rates, right? So you say, well, the FDA said there must be vitamin C in everything on the shelf here that's stated on the label, and say that's probably true. But it may not disintegrate. It's basically, it should by law disintegrate in 45 minutes, where ours will disintegrate, inside 20. A two-piece capsule has to dissolve in 20 minutes. Ours will dissolve in 10. These are all kind of pharmaceutical grade enhancements. I am a pharmacist. I understand manufacturers. We inspect all of our contract manufacturers to make sure they're FDA and OTC approved. And those are very powerful delineations between somebody just starting up a fulfillment or a contract manufacturer for a vitamin company. There's a lot of them out there. It doesn't take much money to get into it, but to be able to pass these rigorous FDA and OTC inspections are what we use in our manufacturers required. I visited them all and I audit them every year. They also have to have standardized strengths of vitamins, herbal products, extracts. Where if you see ginkgo powder, for instance, well, that's nothing. That's like label paint. What you need is ginkgo biloba extract. You need to be the 24/6, which is the extract that's standardized. Then you have to have the study dose, which would be 120 milligram, not the 30, 40, 50 you're going to find in one a day for brain health or whatever they call it. So my pharmacy compounding experience is, we're not going to go to all this problem of getting the right ingredients for the right people at the right time and making the right cofactors and then not have them disintegrate properly, break down. No artificial colors, no artificial binders, no synthetic ingredients. We do extensive testing for impurities, for ingredient levels. We quarantine products until they run biologicals. How many times are you reading lately here? And actually a couple network marketing companies had the problem where you had some E. coli or salmonella, where we quarantine ours until we run the biologicals on it. A lot of companies don't run biologicals. So all of that goes into creating pharmaceutical grade nutrition. The expression is thrown around a lot. So you really have to know that we use a rigorous, disciplined, scientific method of acquiring those ingredients, testing those ingredients, and then holding our manufacturers accountable. And then we test it, and then we send it to outside labs then to check ingredient verification for having the ingredient in it at the active level. If anybody's looking online here, if you look at that slide that has those bottles there, the laboratory bottles, you look at the tallest one, you'll see it looks like it's about 80% full, maybe 85% full, and there's a space above it. There's active ingredient below the liquid, and there's a space above it. Well, in capsules or tablets or soft gels, in pharmacy and pharmaceuticals as well as nutraceuticals, that space would be filled with a filler, right? Something inert, something inactive, something harmless that would fill up the space so you wouldn't think you're being cheated. So typically these amounts end up to be 15, 19%, will vary by formula. Well, we look at it and we say, well, why bother with something inert? Why bother with something useless? Why not give our patients, our customers, our clients, our friends the very best? So we have a bioactive filler. So we add to that combination. It differs by tablet of quercetin, which is a very powerful bioflavonoid from apples and onions, glucosinolates, which comes from broccoli type products, which has cancer-fighting activity, EGCG, which is epigallocatechin gallate from green tea, it's the active antioxidant, and curcumin, it comes from turmeric, extremely powerful anti-inflammatory, and it also helps, it's a cancer-fighting that helps turn on cancer-fighting cells. So we mix that and put that into that extra 19, 15%, whatever it is, to deliver a bioactive filler that will give everybody, no patient, no client I know can take too many antioxidants or too many anti-inflammatories. So in every chance we get, we're delivering, say, the best product at the best time. We talk about the right disintegration rate, and we even look at the filler. The gaps, and everybody has them, and they're all different. We've counseled over 10,000 patients, and we find that rarely anybody over 45 would get, two 45-year-olds or anybody over 45 would get anything the same. So everybody has different gaps. It's all about, even if you're a fitness instructor or you go to a trainer, you're going to get your fitness regimen will be personalized, right? Because it's just for you. So we use, we like to say 100 people over 45, you'll get 100 different formulas, 100 different programs. We talked about the science, where we're using all the 4,000 clinical studies. Safety. We're saying that we have a recall system. It's built into your equipment there in Frisco, where we assign lot numbers to every tablet in the system, and we know who has vitamin C and what the lot number is. If there's any reason to recall it, whether if we test it and find out the potency had eroded for some reason, we never had to do that, we could recall it because I know what lot number of vitamin C you have, and I have. They can't even do that in pharmacy. So we have safety controls. The quality we talk about with the selection of the nutrients, the safety, again, with the drug-nutrient interaction, screening those out, stopping it. There's a particular nutrient that interacts with your drug, you won't get it. Not in our system. So we've built a system from the ground up. I mentioned that in the beginning. We started with the science, and we built the assessment, and then the recommendation results, and then the nutritional program on top of it. So only at the end are we supplying, we believe, the finest nutritional program, because it's built with the correct building blocks, and those building blocks are the science and the formulations and the ingredients, and then all the other details I've told you about. Chronobiology, giving the right nutrient, the right time of day, the right filler, or a bioactive filler. So all of these features and most of them are different from anything on the market. Yeah, it's a dynamic system. It's changing as science changes, the assessment changes on the back end. As the questions will change. If we're looking at all the new drugs now for December, So there'll be new drugs on by the end of this month, where we don't wait 3 years for a reported adverse drug event.